The first time I saw her, she was crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just silent tears running down soft, wrinkled cheeks as she stood in the middle of Via dei Calzaiuoli, clutching her coat like it was the only thing holding her together. Florence was always crowded at this hour, tourists snapping photos, street vendors shouting, the smell of espresso and fresh bread mixing in the air. But somehow, I noticed her. Maybe it was the way she looked around, lost and frightened, like a child separated from her mother. Maybe it was because she reminded me of my own grandmother, who I'd lost 2 years ago. I should have kept walking. I was already late for my shift at the gallery, but something made me stop. "Signora?" I said gently in Italian, approaching her slowly. "Are you okay?" She turned to me, her blue eyes wide and glassy. I can't find my purse," she whispered. "And I don't remember how I got here." My heart squeezed. She was trembling. "It's okay," I said, taking her hand. It was cold. "Let me help you. Do you know where you live?" She nodded slowly. "The hills. Outside the city. But I don't know the address. My son usually sends a car. What's your son's name? Maybe I can call him for you." She hesitated, then shook her head. "No phone. I lost it. I lost everything." I glanced around. No one else was stopping. Everyone just kept walking, living their lives, while this poor woman stood there terrified and alone. I made a decision. "Come with me," I said. "We'll figure this out together." She looked at me like I'd just offered her the world. "You would do that? For a stranger?" I smiled. My nonna used to say, "Kindness costs nothing." She squeezed my hand. "Bless you, child. Bless you." We walked together through the streets, her leaning on my arm. She told me her name was Lucia. She talked about her garden, her late husband, and her son, a good boy, but so serious. I asked if she remembered any landmarks near her home. She mentioned a church with blue doors and a fountain shaped like a lion. I knew that area. It was in the hills where the old money lived. The estates, with gates and security. It took us nearly an hour to get there by bus. She held my hand the entire time, occasionally forgetting where we were going, then remembering again. When we finally reached the neighborhood, she pointed to a narrow road lined with cypress trees. "There," she said. "I think it's there." We walked until we reached a gate. Not just any gate. A massive iron structure with stone pillars and cameras. Beyond it, I could see a sprawling villa, marble, glass, surrounded by manicured gardens. My stomach dropped. "Signora, you live here?" She nodded, smiling. "My son insists. He worries too much." Before I could process what was happening, 2 men in black suits appeared from a side entrance. They moved fast, their hands going to their waists, where I now saw the outline of guns. "Signora Lucia," one of them shouted, relief flooding his face. He spoke rapidly into a radio. "We found her. She's at the gate." Lucia waved at them like nothing was wrong. "Hello, Marco." I went for a walk. The guard Marco looked at me with sharp, suspicious eyes. "Who are you?" I helped her get home," I stammered. "She was lost." He didn't lower his guard. "Stay here." He pressed a button, and the gate opened. Another guard escorted Lucia inside, while Marco stayed with me, watching me like I was a threat. My pulse hammered. Something was very, very wrong. Then the front door of the villa opened, and he stepped out. I'd never seen a man like him before. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my rent. His face was all sharp angles, strong jaw, high cheekbones, a faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow. But it was his eyes that stopped me cold. Dark, intense, dangerous. He walked toward us with slow, deliberate steps, his gaze locked on me the entire time. The guards straightened immediately, like soldiers in the presence of a general. Where was she? His voice was low, controlled, but there was an edge to it like a blade pressed just against your skin. "Via dei Calzaiuoli, sir," Marco said. "This woman brought her back." His eyes flicked to me. My breath caught. "Did she?" he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Lucia hurried toward him, smiling. Dante, this sweet girl helped me when I got confused. Isn't that wonderful? Dante, so that was his name. He didn't smile. He didn't even look at his mother. His gaze stayed on me, cold and assessing. Come inside, he said. It wasn't an invitation. Lucia took my hand, pulling me forward before I could protest. Yes, yes, come have tea. It's the least I can do. I wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But Lucia's grip was firm, and the guards were watching, and Dante was already walking back toward the house. So, I followed. The inside of the villa was breathtaking and terrifying. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, oil paintings in gilded frames. Everything was pristine, expensive, and cold. We entered a sitting room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Lucia sat on a velvet sofa, patting the seat beside her. Sit, dear. You must be exhausted. I sat, my hands folded tightly in my lap. Dante stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, watching me. A man in a gray suit entered, older, sharp-eyed, and whispered something to him. Dante's jaw tightened. Leave us, he said. The man nodded and left. The door clicked shut. Lucia smiled at me. What's your name, sweet girl? Elena, I managed. Elena Rossi. Elena? She repeated warmly. What a beautiful name. Dante finally spoke. How did you find my mother, Elena? There it was. The question I'd been dreading. I didn't find her, I said carefully. She was standing in the street, crying. I asked if she was okay. And you just decided to bring her home. She didn't know where she was. She'd lost her purse. I couldn't just leave her. His eyes narrowed. So you walked her all the way here, to this specific address. She remembered a church with blue doors and a fountain. I helped her find it. Convenient. My stomach twisted. I don't understand. I was just trying to help. People don't just help in my world, Elena. He stepped closer, and I fought the urge to shrink back. They have motives, agendas. So tell me who sent you. No one sent me. Dante, Lucia said gently. Stop frightening the poor girl. She helped me, that's all. But he wasn't listening to her. He was studying me like I was a puzzle he needed to solve. Do you know who I am? He asked quietly. I shook my head. Good. He straightened. Then let me make something very clear. My mother is the only thing in this world I care about. If I find out you had anything to do with what happened today, if someone paid you, threatened you, used you, I will know, and you will regret it. My throat tightened. I swear, I didn't. Marco will take you home, he interrupted. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. And Elena? Don't come back here. Then he was gone. Lucia sighed. Don't mind him, dear. He's protective. Too protective. I nodded numbly, my hands shaking. What had I just walked into? Marco drove me home in silence. The car was sleek, expensive, and felt more like a cage than a vehicle. I sat in the back, staring out the window, replaying everything that had just happened. Dante's voice, his eyes, the way the guards moved around him like he was royalty or something worse. When we pulled up to my building, Marco turned to look at me. A word of advice, he said. Forget today. Forget the villa. Forget them. I wasn't planning on remembering, I muttered. He didn't smile. Good. I climbed out, legs unsteady, and watched the car disappear into the night. My apartment felt too small, too quiet. I locked the door, checked it twice, then collapsed onto my couch. What had I done? I told myself I'd done the right thing. An old woman needed help, and I helped her. That was it. That was all. But the way Dante looked at me, I shivered. My phone buzzed. A text from Rosa, my best friend. Coffee tomorrow? You've been MIA. I typed back quickly. Yes, please. I needed to talk to someone. Someone normal. Someone who could remind me that the world I'd just glimpsed wasn't real. But even as I tried to convince myself, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. That helping Lucia hadn't just been kindness. It had been a mistake. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, Dante, standing in that villa, radiating danger, looking at me like I was a threat he needed to eliminate. By the time morning came, I was exhausted. I dragged myself to the gallery, hoping work would distract me, but I kept glancing at the door, half expecting Marco, or worse, Dante, to walk in. No one came. Rosa met me for coffee that afternoon at our usual spot, a tiny cafe near the Duomo. She took one look at me and frowned. "You look like hell." "Thanks," I muttered, sipping my cappuccino. "What happened?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to tell her everything, but another part, the part that remembered the guards, the guns, the cold threat in Dante's voice, told me to stay quiet. "Just a weird day," I said finally. She narrowed her eyes. "Elena, I helped this old woman get home yesterday, that's all. And her son was intense." Rosa leaned forward. "Intense how?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. How could I explain it? The villa, the guards, the way Dante looked at me like I was both fascinating and dangerous. "Just forget it," I said. "It's over." But Rosa wasn't convinced. "You're being weird. Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. Because when I left the cafe and walked back toward my apartment, I felt it again. The sensation of being watched. I glanced over my shoulder. The street was crowded. Tourists, locals, street performers. But somewhere in that sea of faces, I swore I saw a man in a dark suit, watching me. I quickened my pace, heart pounding. By the time I reached my building, I was almost running. I slammed the door behind me, locked it, and leaned against it, breathing hard. This was insane. I was being paranoid. But then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I stared at it, my pulse hammering. Finally I answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then, a voice. Low. Familiar. "You should have listened, Elena." My blood turned to ice. It was him. Dante. "How did you get my number?" I whispered, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "I told you," Dante said calmly. "I find out everything." My stomach twisted. "What do you want?" A pause. Then, "My mother wants to see you again." "What?" "She won't stop talking about you, about how kind you were, how you remind her of someone." His tone was unreadable. "She's asking for you." I can't. You told me not to come back." I know what I said. Another pause. "But she's not well, Elena. And when she asks for something, I give it to her." There was something in his voice, something raw, almost vulnerable. It caught me off guard. "I don't understand," I said slowly. "Why would she want to see me? I'm just a stranger." "You're not a stranger to her anymore," he exhaled. "Look, I don't like this any more than you do. But she's insisting, and I don't have the heart to tell her no." I closed my eyes. This was a mistake. I knew it was a mistake. But the image of Lucia's sweet face, her trembling hands, her soft voice calling me a good soul. "When?" I asked quietly. "Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Marco will pick you up. I can take the bus." "No." His voice hardened. "You'll be picked up. You'll be brought here. And you'll leave when I say you can leave. Understood?" My hands shook. "You can't just order me around." "I can. And I will. Because the moment you walked my mother through that gate, you became my responsibility. Whether you like it or not." Then he hung up. I stood there, staring at my phone, my mind racing. What was I supposed to do? Refuse? Ignore him? But Lucia's face kept flashing in my mind. The way she'd looked at me with such gratitude, such trust. I couldn't just abandon her, even if it meant walking back into the lion's den. The next day, Marco arrived exactly at 3. I climbed into the car, heart hammering, and we drove in silence toward the hills. When we arrived, Lucia was waiting in the garden, wearing a soft lavender dress and a wide smile. "Elena," she exclaimed, hurrying toward me. "You came." I couldn't help but smile. "Of course I did." She took my hands, squeezing them tightly. "Come, sit with me. I've made lemon cakes." We sat beneath a pergola covered in wisteria, the afternoon sun warm on our skin. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Lucia poured tea and chatted about her garden, her favorite operas, the birds that visited her fountain. She seemed lighter today, happier, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced toward the villa and saw him, Dante, standing at a second-floor window, arms crossed, staring down at us. Lucia followed my gaze and sighed. He worries too much. About what? She hesitated, then reached out and touched my cheek gently. About losing the people he loves. Something in her tone made my chest ache. Why did you want to see me again, Signora? I asked quietly. She smiled sadly. Because kindness is rare in this world, Elena, and I wanted to thank you properly. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Her voice was firm. You didn't have to help me. But you did, without expecting anything in return. That's a gift. Tears pricked my eyes. She squeezed my hand. But I need to warn you, child. My son is a complicated man. He lives in a world full of shadows, and I'm afraid. She trailed off, her eyes distant. I'm afraid you've stepped into those shadows now. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? Before she could answer, Dante appeared on the terrace, his expression unreadable. Mother, he said quietly, it's time for your rest. Lucia sighed but didn't argue. She stood slowly, touching my shoulder. Come visit me again, Elena, please. I nodded, unable to speak. As she walked back toward the villa, Dante stayed behind, his gaze fixed on me. You should go, he said. I stood, my legs unsteady. Why did you really call me here? He didn't answer immediately. Then, softer, because she asked. And I can't say no to her. There was something heartbreaking in his voice. She's lucky to have you, I said before I could stop myself. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, the coldness cracked. Just slightly. No, he said quietly. She's unlucky, because loving me only brings pain. Then he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, alone in the garden. As Marco drove me home, I realized something that terrified me. I wasn't just being watched. I was being pulled into something I didn't understand, and I had no idea how to get out. 3 days passed. 3 days of me telling myself I'd never go back to that villa, that I'd forget Dante's voice, his eyes, the way he looked at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. 3 days of lying to myself. I was restocking frames at the gallery when the bell above the door chimed. I glanced up and froze. Dante. He stood in the doorway, hands in the pockets of a charcoal suit, his dark eyes scanning the room before landing on me. He looked completely out of place among the watercolors and pottery, like a wolf wandering into a library. My heart slammed against my ribs. Can I help you? I managed, my voice barely steady. He stepped inside, the door closing softly behind him. I'm looking for something for my mother. Liar. I knew it. He knew I knew it. But he said it anyway, his expression unreadable. What kind of piece? I asked, gripping the edge of the counter. Something with flowers. She likes gardens. I swallowed hard and forced myself to move, leading him toward a section of floral landscapes. He followed, close enough that I could smell his cologne, woodsy, expensive, dangerous. I stopped in front of a painting of wisteria blooming over an old stone wall. This one is popular. He barely glanced at it. Do you paint? The question caught me off guard. Sometimes. Why? You have paint under your nails. I looked down. He was right. A faint smudge of cerulean blue I'd missed this morning. It's a hobby, I said quietly. Show me. What? Your work. Show me. My pulse hammered. I don't display my own paintings here. Then show me somewhere else. This wasn't about art. We both knew it. Why are you really here? I whispered, my voice shaking. He stepped closer, and suddenly the gallery felt too small. Because my mother won't stop talking about you, and I need to understand why. There's nothing to understand. I helped her. That's it. Is it? His gaze pinned me in place. Because the way she looks at you, talks about you, it's like you reminded her of something she lost. And I need to know what that is. I couldn't breathe. I'm just a stranger. No. His voice dropped. You're not. Not anymore. Before I could respond, the bell chimed again. A customer walked in, and Dante stepped back smoothly, his mask sliding into place. "I'll take the wisteria painting," he said, pulling out a wallet. "Have it delivered to the villa." He handed me a card, black, embossed with a name I didn't recognize, and left without another word. I stood there, trembling, staring at the empty doorway. What was he doing to me? "Are you insane?" Rosa's voice echoed through the cafe, loud enough that a few people turned to stare. She didn't care. I'd told her everything. About Dante showing up at the gallery, about the villa, the guards, the way he looked at me. She was furious. "Elena, do you have any idea who he is?" she hissed, leaning across the table. "He's Lucia's son. He's Dante DeLuca." She said the name like a curse. "His family owns half the city, and not through real estate or business, Elena. Through fear." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly, then turned the screen toward me. A news article from 2 years ago. DeLuca family tied to arms trafficking investigation, no charges filed. I felt sick. "He's Mafia," Rosa said quietly. "Everyone knows it, but no one can prove it. And men like him? They don't just visit women. They own them. He's not. He's already marked you, Elena. The moment he walked into that gallery, the moment he looked at you, he claimed you." She grabbed my hand. "You need to stay away from him." "I haven't done anything wrong," I whispered. "It doesn't matter. In his world, wrong and right don't exist, only power." I pulled my hand back, my mind spinning. "Lucia isn't like that. She's sweet, kind. She's his mother. Of course she is." Rosa's voice softened. "But that doesn't change what he is. Promise me you'll stay away." I wanted to promise. I really did. But even as I nodded, I knew it was already too late. It happened at midnight. I woke to the sound of footsteps outside my window. My apartment was on the 2nd floor. There shouldn't have been footsteps. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and crept toward the window, peering through the curtains. A man in black stood in the alley below, speaking into a radio. Another man was climbing the fire escape. Panic flooded me. I stumbled back, locking the window, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the latch. Then came the knock. Not at the window, at my front door. Slow. Deliberate. I pressed myself against the wall, phone clutched to my chest. I should call the police. I should scream. I should. "Elena," a voice, calm, familiar, opened the door. Matteo, Dante's right-hand man. The gray-suited man I'd seen at the villa. "What do you want?" I choked out. "To keep you alive. Now open the door before they get to you first." "Who's they?" "Open the door." My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Matteo stepped inside, his eyes sharp, assessing. 2 more men followed, guns visible beneath their jackets. "Pack a bag," Matteo said. "You have 2 minutes." "I'm not going anywhere. They know where you live, Elena. They know you visited the villa. They know Dante's been watching you." His voice was flat, emotionless. "If you stay here, you'll be dead by morning." The room spun. "Who's they?" "People who want to hurt Dante. And they'll use you to do it." "I'm nobody." "You were nobody." His gaze hardened. "Not anymore." I didn't have time to argue. I grabbed clothes, my sketchbook, my phone charger. My mind was blank, running on pure instinct. 2 minutes later, I was in a black SUV, speeding through Florence's empty streets. Matteo sat beside me, silent and watchful. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "Where you'll be safe. The villa." Of course. When we arrived, Lucia was waiting in the foyer, her face pale with worry. "Oh, sweet girl," she murmured, pulling me into a hug. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand." "Sorry for what?" Dante appeared at the top of the staircase, his expression dark. He descended slowly, his gaze locked on me. "Take her to the east wing," he told Matteo. Then, to me, "We'll talk in the morning." But Lucia stopped him. "No, she'll stay with me tonight." Her voice was firm. "She's frightened, Dante. Let her breathe." For a moment, I thought he'd refuse, but then he nodded once and walked away without another word. Lucia led me to a guest room's soft cream walls, a four-poster bed, windows overlooking the garden. It was beautiful, and it felt like a cage. "Rest," she said gently. "You're safe here." But I didn't feel safe. I felt trapped. The next evening, Lucia insisted I join them for dinner. I tried to refuse, but she wouldn't hear it. "You're part of this family now, Elena, whether you like it or not." The dining room was massive, long table, crystal chandeliers, enough food for 20 people even though it was just the three of us. Dante sat at the head of the table, his presence dominating the room. He didn't speak much, just watched me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Lucia filled the silence with stories about her childhood, her late husband, the villa's history. She was trying to make me comfortable, but it wasn't working. Because every time I glanced at Dante, I felt it. The pull, the danger. The way he looked at me like I was something he wanted but couldn't afford to touch. "Elena paints," Lucia said suddenly, smiling at me. "Isn't that wonderful, Dante?" His gaze flicked to me. "I know. Of course he did." "You should paint something for the garden," Lucia continued. "Something bright, cheerful." "I don't think." "She will," Dante interrupted quietly. His eyes met mine. "Won't you, Elena?" It wasn't a question. It was a command wrapped in silk. I nodded slowly, unable to look away. Lucia beamed. "Perfect." But I felt anything but perfect. I felt like a bird with clipped wings. The next morning, I couldn't stay inside anymore. I needed air, space, something that didn't feel like captivity. I wandered through the villa until I found it a hidden garden behind the east wing. Roses, lavender, jasmine, a stone bench beneath a willow tree. The sound of water trickling from a fountain. It was peaceful. Quiet. For the first time since I'd arrived, I could breathe. I sat on the bench, closing my eyes, letting the sun warm my face. "You found it." I jumped, eyes flying open. Dante stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You're not." He stepped closer, his gaze sweeping over the garden. "My mother designed this place. It's her sanctuary." I relaxed slightly. "It's beautiful." He sat beside me, not too close, but close enough that I felt the warmth of him. We sat in silence for a long moment. "She hasn't smiled in years," he said quietly. "Not really. Not since my father died." I glanced at him. His jaw was tight, his eyes distant. "Until the day you brought her home," he continued. "She smiled, laughed, talked about you like you were a gift." My throat tightened. "I didn't do anything special. You treated her like a person, not a liability, not a target." He turned to me, and for the first time, I saw something raw in his eyes. "In my world, that's everything." I didn't know what to say. "I don't know how to protect her anymore," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've tried. God knows I've tried. But the harder I hold on, the more danger I bring to her door." "Then let her go," I said softly. He looked at me like I'd just stabbed him. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because she's all I have left." His voice cracked, just slightly. "And if I lose her, I lose the only part of me that's still human." My chest ached. Before I could stop myself, I reached out and touched his hand. He stared down at it, shocked. "You're not a monster," I whispered. His eyes met mine, dark and tormented. "You don't know what I've done." "I don't need to." For a moment the world narrowed to just us. The garden, the silence, the fragile thread connecting us. Then he pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. "You should go inside." And just like that, the walls were back up. It happened so fast. One moment, I was walking back toward the villa. The next, the world exploded. The blast threw me to the ground, my ears ringing, my vision blurred. Smoke billowed from the front gates, flames licking the iron. Shouting, gunfire. Hands grabbed me, dragging me behind a stone wall. "Dante." His face was inches from mine, his eyes wild. "Stay down," he roared. More gunfire. Men in black swarmed the grounds, returning fire. The villa's security system blared. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Dante pressed me against the wall, his body shielding mine. "Don't move, don't make a sound." I nodded, trembling. The gunfire stopped. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Dante pulled back slightly, his hand cupping my face. "Are you hurt?" I shook my head. He exhaled, relief flooding his features. Then his expression hardened. "This is my fault. I brought you here. I made you a target." "What do you mean?" "They're coming for me, Elena. And anyone I care about becomes collateral damage." "Who's they?" "Everyone." His voice was cold. "Rivals, enemies, people who want me dead." My heart shattered. "Then why did you bring me here?" "Because you were already in danger the moment you helped my mother." He gripped my shoulders. "Don't you see? They were watching her, and when you brought her home, they started watching you." Tears stung my eyes. "So this is all because I was kind?" He looked at me like I'd just ripped his heart out. "Yes." Later that night, after the flames were extinguished and the bodies removed, Dante came to my room. He stood in the doorway, his suit jacket gone, his shirt stained with soot and blood. "You can leave," he said quietly. "Matteo will take you anywhere you want to go. A new city, a new country. I'll make sure you're protected." I stared at him. "And if I stay?" His jaw tightened. "Then you stay under my protection, in this villa, until I can guarantee your safety. That's not a choice, that's captivity. It's survival." I stood, crossing the room until I was inches from him. "Why do you care?" He looked away. "Because my mother cares, and I owe you for what you did for her." "That's not why." His eyes snapped back to mine. "Then why?" "Because you feel something," I whispered, "and it terrifies you." For a moment, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then he stepped closer, so close I could feel the heat of him. "You're right," he murmured. "It does." My breath hitched. "But that doesn't change what I am, Elena. Or what I've done." His voice was rough. "I'm not a good man. I'm not your hero. And if you stay, you'll see that." I met his gaze, my heart pounding. "I'm staying." "Why?" "For Lucia," I said. But we both knew it was a lie. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, softly, "You're a fool. Maybe." He turned to leave, pausing at the door. "Get some rest. Tomorrow things get harder." And as he disappeared into the shadows, I realized the truth. I wasn't staying for Lucia. I was staying for him. God help me. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the explosion, heard the gunfire, felt Dante's body pressed against mine, shielding me from death. At dawn, I gave up and wandered downstairs. The villa was eerily quiet. Guards patrolled the grounds, their faces grim. The front gates were still charred, a stark reminder of what had happened. I found Matteo in Dante's study, surrounded by maps and files. He looked up when I entered, his expression unreadable. "You should be resting," he said. "I can't." I crossed my arms. "I need to understand. Who's trying to kill him?" Matteo studied me for a long moment. Then he sighed and gestured to a chair. "Sit." I did. He poured himself an espresso, not offering me one. "What do you know about Dante De Luca?" "That he's dangerous, that people fear him." "That's the surface." Matteo leaned against the desk. "Do you know what they call him in the underworld?" I shook my head. "Il Fantasma." The ghost. His voice was cold. "Because when he decides you're a threat, you disappear. No trial, no warning, just gone." My stomach turned. "He controls arms trafficking across 3 countries. Money laundering through art galleries, restaurants, construction companies." Matteo's gaze was sharp. "The police know. Interpol knows. But they can't touch him. He's too smart, too careful." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand what you've walked into." He stepped closer. "Dante De Luca isn't a man. He's a machine built to survive. And anyone who gets close to him either becomes part of that machine or gets crushed by it." I swallowed hard. Lucia doesn't seem crushed. Lucia is the exception, the only one. His expression darkened. "But even she pays a price. Every day, she lives in fear that someone will use her to hurt him. That's why she rarely leaves the villa. Why she has guards everywhere. That's not a life," I whispered. No, Matteo agreed. It's not. But it's the only life he can give her. And now, it's the life you've chosen. Before I could respond, the door opened. Dante stood there, his eyes cold. Leave us. Matteo nodded and left without a word. Dante closed the door, his gaze pinning me in place. What did he tell you? The truth, I said quietly. That you're il fantasma. That people disappear when you want them to. He didn't deny it, and now you're afraid. I should be. But you're not. I met his eyes. No, I'm not. He stared at me like I was insane. Why? Because I've seen you with Lucia. I've seen the way you look at her like she's the only thing in the world that matters. I stood, my voice steady. Monsters don't love like that. His jaw tightened. You don't know what I've done. Then tell me. No. Why not? Because if I do, he said quietly, you'll never look at me the same way again. And that's when I realized. He was afraid. Not of his enemies. Not of death. Of me seeing him for what he truly was. Days passed. I stayed in the villa, mostly keeping to the garden or Lucia's sitting room. Dante avoided me, throwing himself into work, surrounded by men in dark suits and hushed conversations. But sometimes, late at night, I'd see him, standing on the terrace, smoking a cigarette, staring out at the city lights, his shoulders tense, his face unreadable. One night, I couldn't help myself. I stepped outside, the cool air biting my skin. He didn't turn, but I knew he'd heard me. You shouldn't be out here, he said. Neither should you. A ghost of a smile. This is my home. Is it? I stepped closer. Or is it a prison? He finally looked at me, and in the moonlight, I saw it, the exhaustion. The weight he carried. Both, he admitted. We stood in silence for a moment. Matteo told me what they call you, I said softly. Il fantasma. He took a drag from his cigarette. And what do you think? I hesitated. I think you've spent so long being a ghost that you forgot how to be human. He laughed bitterly. Maybe I was never human to begin with. I don't believe that. Why not? He turned to me, his eyes dark and searching. Why do you keep defending me? Because someone should. The words hung between us. He stepped closer, so close I could see the faint scar on his jaw, the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. You're too good for this world, Elena. And you're too hard on yourself. His hand lifted, hesitating, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was feather-light, but it burned. You should hate me, he whispered. I know. But you don't. No, I breathed. I don't. For a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. His gaze dropped to my lips, and the air between us crackled with tension. But then he stepped back, breaking the spell. Go inside, Elena. Before I do something we'll both regret. And I did. But as I walked away, I felt his eyes on me burning into my back. And I knew. We were both already too far gone. The next morning, Lucia invited me to help her in the garden. We worked in comfortable silence, planting lavender and trimming roses. But I could tell something was weighing on her. He's been different since you arrived, she said finally. I glanced at her. Different how? Softer, quieter. She smiled sadly. He reminds me of the boy he used to be. Before. Before what? She set down her shears, her hands trembling slightly. Before his father was murdered. My heart stopped. It happened right in front of him, she continued, her voice distant. Dante was only 17. They were at a restaurant, celebrating his birthday. And then, her voice broke. Gunfire. Blood. His father died in his arms. Tears stung my eyes. Lucia. He changed that night. The boy I knew, the one who loved music and art, died with his father. And in his place. She looked at me, her eyes wet. A ghost. I couldn't speak. He swore he'd never let anyone hurt me the way they hurt his father. And he's kept that promise. But the cost. She shook her head. He's given up everything. Love. Peace. Happiness. All for control. That's why he won't let anyone close, I whispered. Yes. She touched my hand. But you've gotten closer than anyone in years. And that terrifies him. Why? Because caring about you makes you a target, and he's already lost too much. I swallowed hard, my chest aching. That evening, I found Dante in his study. He looked up when I entered, his expression guarded. "What is it?" "Your mother told me," I said quietly. "About your father." His entire body went rigid. "She shouldn't have." "I'm glad she did." I stepped closer. "Because now I understand." "Understand what?" His voice was sharp. "Why you push everyone away. Why you think caring about people makes you weak." "It does," he said flatly. "No," I shook my head. "It makes you human. And that's what scares you." He stood abruptly, crossing to the window. "You think you know me, Elena. But you don't. Then tell me." I moved behind him. "Tell me what you're so afraid of." He turned, and the look in his eyes nearly broke me. "I'm afraid of losing everyone I care about. I'm afraid of watching them die because of me. I'm afraid of—" He stopped, his jaw clenched. "Of what?" I whispered. "Of you," he admitted, his voice raw. "I'm afraid of you." My breath caught. "Because when I look at you," he continued, stepping closer, "I don't see a liability. I don't see a weapon my enemies can use. I see," he exhaled shakily, "I see something I want, something I have no right to have." Tears slipped down my cheeks. "And it's going to get you killed," he whispered. "Just like it got my father killed. Just like it almost got my mother killed." "Then protect me," I said, my voice breaking. "The way you protect her." "I am," he said, "by keeping you at a distance." But even as he said it, his hand lifted, cupping my face. And I knew. The distance was already gone. It happened 2 days later. I was in the garden when I heard shouting at the front gates. Guards surrounded someone, a man, disheveled and desperate. He was yelling in Italian, demanding to see me. My blood turned to ice, because I recognized that voice. Marco. My ex. I ran toward the gates, my heart hammering. "Stop, don't hurt him." The guards turned, confused. Dante appeared from the villa, his expression thunderous. "Elena, get back inside. He's my—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "Please, just let me talk to him." Dante's eyes darkened, but he nodded once. The guards stepped back. Marco stumbled forward, his face pale. "Elena, thank God. I've been looking for you everywhere." "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "I needed to see you, to apologize." His eyes were red-rimmed. "I know I hurt you. I know I was controlling, possessive, but I've changed, I swear. Marco, you need to leave. Not without you." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Please, I love you. I made a mistake." "You made 100 mistakes," I said coldly, "and I'm done forgiving you." His expression twisted. "Is it because of him?" He glared at Dante. "Because of him?" Before I could respond, Dante stepped forward, his voice deadly quiet. "Leave, now." Marco laughed bitterly. "Of course. The great Dante DeLuca. I should have known." Dante went still. "What did you say?" I said I should have known. Marco's smile was sharp. "You always take what doesn't belong to you." In a flash, Dante had him by the throat, slamming him against the gate. "Who are you?" Marco choked, struggling. I'm nobody." "Liar." Dante's grip tightened. "Who sent you?" "Dante, stop." I grabbed his arm. "You're hurting him." "He's Caruso," Dante growled. "I can smell it on him." My blood ran cold. "What?" Marco's eyes flicked to mine, panicked. "Elena, I can explain." But Dante didn't let him finish. He threw him to the ground, nodding to his men. "Take him to the cellar. I want answers." "No." I stepped between them. "You can't." "He's a spy, Elena," Dante said, his voice ice. "And you brought him straight to my door." I stared at Marco, shaking. "Is that true?" He didn't answer. And I knew. I followed Dante into the villa, my mind reeling. "I didn't know," I said, my voice shaking. "I swear." "I didn't know." He didn't respond. He just kept walking, his jaw clenched. We reached his study, and he slammed the door behind us. "How long were you with him?" "A year, but we broke up 6 months ago." Why? Because he was controlling, jealous. He wouldn't let me have friends, wouldn't let me work. My voice cracked. I thought he was just insecure. I didn't know he was Mafia, Dante finished coldly. Caruso family, one of my biggest rivals. I sank into a chair, my legs giving out. This can't be happening. Dante paced, his mind working. When did you first meet my mother? 3 weeks ago. Why? And when did you leave Marco? 6 months ago. He stopped, his eyes narrowing. So he had plenty of time to watch you, follow you, wait for the right moment. My stomach turned. What are you saying? I'm saying your meeting with my mother wasn't an accident. His voice was hard. He set you up, made sure you'd be in the right place at the right time. Made sure you'd help her. No. I shook my head. She was genuinely lost. Was she? He leaned over his desk, his eyes burning. Or was she made to be lost, confused, disoriented? Horror washed over me. You think they drugged her? I know they did. My men found traces of a sedative in her blood the day after you brought her home. I couldn't breathe. They wanted her vulnerable, confused, easy to kidnap. His fists clenched. But you ruined their plan. You brought her home before they could grab her. Tears streamed down my face. So this whole time, you were a pawn, Dante said quietly. And so was she. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. Lucia found me in the garden, curled up on the stone bench, sobbing. Oh, sweet girl, she murmured, wrapping a shawl around my shoulders. Don't cry. I almost got you killed, I choked out. If I hadn't helped you, if I'd just walked away, then I would have been taken, and Dante would have torn the world apart looking for me. She sat beside me, taking my hand. You saved me, Elena. Don't you see that? But Marco, is not your fault. Her voice was firm. You were used, manipulated. That's what they do. Dante must hate me. He doesn't hate you. She smiled sadly. He's terrified of losing you. Before I could respond, Dante appeared in the garden, his expression dark. Leave us, he told his mother. Lucia squeezed my hand and left. Dante stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, his gaze unreadable. Marco talked. I looked up, wiping my tears. What did he say? That he was sent to get close to you 2 years ago, to watch you, study you, wait for an opportunity. My chest ached. So everything was a lie. Yes. I laughed bitterly. I thought I'd escaped him. I thought I was free. You are now. Dante's voice was cold. He'll never touch you again. Something in his tone made my blood run cold. What did you do? What needed to be done? Dante. He was going to kill you, Elena. His voice exploded, raw and furious. Once you'd served your purpose, they were going to eliminate you. You were collateral damage. I stood, trembling. So you killed him? He didn't answer. Did you? I demanded, my voice breaking. Yes, he said flatly. I did. I should have been horrified, disgusted. But all I felt was relief. And that terrified me more than anything. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm sorry I brought this into your life. He stepped closer, his eyes softening just slightly. You didn't bring anything. This was already here. You were just caught in the crossfire. I put Lucia in danger. No. His hand cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. They put her in danger, not you. Tears spilled over. I don't know how to fix this. You can't, he said quietly. But you can survive it, and I'll make sure you do. His thumb brushed away my tears, and for a moment, the world fell away. Why? I whispered. Why do you care so much? He stared at me, his jaw tight, his eyes tortured. Then, so softly I almost missed it. Because I'm falling for you, and it's going to destroy us both. The attack came at dawn. I woke to the sound of shattering glass and screaming. My door burst open. Matteo, his face grim, a gun in his hand. Get up, now. I scrambled out of bed, my heart hammering. What's happening? The Carusos, they're here. Gunfire erupted somewhere below. The villa shook with the force of an explosion. Matteo grabbed my arm, pulling me into the hallway. Guards rushed past us, shouting orders in Italian. The air smelled like smoke and gunpowder. "Where's Lucia?" I gasped. "Dante's getting her out. My job is to get you out." "No." I yanked my arm free. "I'm not leaving her." "Elena, you don't have a choice." Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. I ran. Down the stairs, through the smoke-filled halls, following the sound of Lucia's voice. She was in the foyer, surrounded by guards, her face pale with fear. "Elena," she cried when she saw me. Dante appeared beside her, his eyes wild when he saw me. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I'm not leaving her," I shouted over the chaos. "You're both leaving." He grabbed Lucia's arm, shouting to Matteo. "Take them to the safe house, now." But before Matteo could move, the front doors exploded inward. Men poured in armed, masked, moving with military precision. The Carusos. Dante shoved his mother behind him, returning fire. His men engaged, the foyer erupting into a war zone. I grabbed Lucia, pulling her toward a side hallway. But she stumbled, her legs giving out. I can't run," she gasped. "Then I'll carry you." I wrapped my arm around her waist, half dragging, half carrying her away from the gunfire. We made it to a sitting room. I locked the door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the bolt. Lucia collapsed onto a sofa, clutching her chest. "My heart. Stay with me." I knelt beside her, taking her hand. "Just breathe. In and out. You're okay." But I didn't know if she was okay. I didn't know if any of us were okay. The door rattled. Someone was trying to get in. I looked around desperately for something, anything to defend us with. My hand closed around a heavy brass candlestick. The door splintered. A man stepped through, gun raised. I didn't think. I swung. The candlestick connected with his skull, and he dropped like a stone. Lucia stared at me, wide-eyed. "Elena, it's okay," I breathed, though my entire body was shaking. "It's okay." But it wasn't. Because 3 more men appeared in the doorway. And this time, I had nothing left to fight with. The lead man smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "Elena Rossi, we've been looking for you." I stepped in front of Lucia, my voice steadier than I felt. "Leave her alone. She has nothing to do with this." "She has everything to do with this." He raised his gun, aiming it at Lucia. "She's his weakness, and we're going to break him with it." "No!" I lunged forward. The gunshot was deafening. Pain exploded through my shoulder, white-hot and blinding. I hit the floor hard, my vision swimming. Through the haze, I heard Lucia screaming, heard boots on marble, heard another gunshot closer, sharper. Then arms around me, lifting me, a familiar voice, rough and desperate. "Elena, Elena, stay with me. Dante." I forced my eyes open. His face hovered above mine, pale and terrified. Blood soaked my shirt, warm and sticky. "I'm okay," I whispered, though I wasn't sure if it was true. "You're not." His hands pressed against my shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. "You're not okay." More gunfire. Matteo appeared, firing at the doorway. "We need to move." Dante lifted me into his arms, cradling me against his chest. "Hold on. Just hold on." Everything blurred after that. The sound of gunfire fading, the smell of smoke, the feel of his heartbeat racing beneath my cheek. I tried to stay awake, tried to focus on his voice, murmuring to me in Italian words I didn't understand but felt in my bones. "Don't leave me," he whispered. "Don't you dare leave me." I wanted to tell him I wouldn't, that I was here, that I wasn't going anywhere. But the darkness pulled me under. I woke to the sound of machines beeping. My shoulder throbbed, bandaged and heavy. The room was dim, sterile. A private medical suite, I realized. Somewhere inside the villa, a hand held mine. I turned my head slowly. Dante sat beside the bed, slumped forward, his forehead resting against our joined hands. He looked exhausted, his suit jacket gone, his shirt stained with blood. "My blood. Dante," I whispered. His head shot up, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "Elena." He exhaled shakily, pressing my hand to his lips. I thought I lost you." "I'm okay," I said, though my voice was weak. "You were shot." His voice cracked. "You threw yourself in front of a bullet. For her." "Of course I did." "Why?" His hands trembled around mine. "Why would you do that?" "Because I love her." Tears slipped down my temples. "And because I knew you couldn't survive losing her." He stared at me like I'd just torn his heart out. "You could have died. But I didn't." "You almost did." His grip tightened. "I held you while you bled. I watched the light fade from your eyes. And his voice broke. "I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was beg you to stay." I reached up with my good hand, touching his face. "I'm here." He closed his eyes, leaning into my touch. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not." I smiled weakly. "But you're stuck with me anyway." He laughed a broken, desperate sound and pressed his forehead to mine. "I'm falling for you, Elena. So hard it terrifies me." "I know," I whispered, "because I'm falling too." His eyes opened, dark and intense. "This life, my life, it will hurt you. Over and over. Are you sure you can survive it?" "I survived, Marco. I survived tonight." I held his gaze. "I can survive anything. As long as you're with me." He kissed my forehead, soft and reverent. "Then I'll never leave your side." And I believed him. While I recovered, Dante disappeared. Matteo stayed with me, updating me in careful, measured words. "He's handling the Carusos." "What does that mean?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. Matteo's expression was grim. "It means he's making sure they never come near you or his mother again." I didn't ask for details. But 3 days later, the news reported it. A warehouse fire on the outskirts of Florence. Multiple bodies found, all connected to the Caruso crime family. The authorities called it a gang war. I called it vengeance. When Dante finally returned, it was late at night. I was sitting in the garden, unable to sleep, my arm in a sling. He appeared like a ghost, silent and lethal. His suit was gone, replaced by a black shirt and pants. His knuckles were bruised. "Is it over?" I asked quietly. "Yes." He sat beside me on the bench, staring out at the dark gardens. "They're gone." "All of them. Did you?" "Yes," he said before I could finish. "I did." I should have felt horror, disgust, fear, but all I felt was gratitude. "Thank you," I whispered. He turned to me, his eyes shadowed. "For what?" "For protecting us, for keeping your promise." His jaw tightened. "I should have protected you better. You wouldn't have been shot if—" "Stop." I touched his hand. "I made my choice, and I'd make it again." He stared at our joined hands, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. "I killed them all, Elena. Every single one. And I'd do it again without hesitation." "I know. Does that frighten you?" "No." I met his gaze. "Because I know why you did it. And I know you'd never hurt someone who didn't deserve it." He looked at me like I was something precious, fragile. "You see too much good in me. Or maybe you don't see enough." He pulled me closer carefully, mindful of my shoulder, and pressed a kiss to my hair. "I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm not letting you go." "Good," I murmured against his chest. "Because I'm not going anywhere." We sat there in the darkness, two broken people holding each other together. And for the first time since this all began, I felt safe. I woke in Dante's bed. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warm and soft. My shoulder ached, but it was bearable. Dante was beside me, still asleep. His face was relaxed for once, the hard lines softened. He looked younger, almost peaceful. I watched him for a moment, memorizing the curve of his jaw, the faint scar on his eyebrow, the way his dark lashes rested against his cheeks. This man, this dangerous, ruthless man, had given me everything: protection, safety, love. His eyes opened slowly, finding mine. For a moment he just stared at me like he couldn't quite believe I was real. "Hi," I whispered. "Hi." His hand reached out, fingers brushing my cheek. "How do you feel?" "Sore, but alive." He exhaled, relief flooding his features. Good. We lay there in comfortable silence, the world outside forgotten. Dante, I said softly, what happens now? He was quiet for a moment. Then, now, we rebuild. The villa, the security, everything. And us? His eyes met mine, intense and unwavering. Us? We stay together, no matter what. My heart swelled. You mean that? I've never meant anything more. He shifted closer, his hand cradling my face. You're mine, Elena, and I'm yours. That's not changing. Tears stung my eyes. Even though You're not just anything. His voice was fierce. You're the woman who saved my mother, who threw herself into danger to protect her, who looked at me at the monster everyone fears and saw something worth loving. You're not a monster. Maybe not anymore. He kissed my forehead. Because you made me human again. I smiled through my tears. So what does that make us? Everything, he murmured. You're everything. And when he kissed me soft and gentle and full of promise, I knew. This was home. Not the villa, not Florence. Him. 2 weeks later, I was strong enough to walk without wincing. Lucia insisted on a celebration, a small dinner, just the three of us. She spent the entire day preparing, her face glowing with joy. When we sat down to eat, she raised her glass. To Elena, she said, her eyes bright. La benedizione, the blessing. I blushed. I'm not. You are, Dante said quietly, his hand finding mine under the table. You saved her. You saved me. Lucia reached across the table, squeezing my other hand. You came into our lives when we needed you most. And now, you're family. My throat tightened. Family? Yes. She smiled through tears. My son has been alone for so long. But now he has you, and I have you, and we're whole again. Dante's grip on my hand tightened, his eyes suspiciously bright. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Say you'll stay, Lucia said. Say you'll never leave us. I looked at Dante, at the man who'd terrified me, protected me, loved me. I'll stay, I promised. For as long as you'll have me. Forever then, Dante murmured, bringing my hand to his lips. Lucia beamed. Forever. Later that night, Dante and I stood on the terrace, looking out at the city lights. Do you ever regret it? I asked. That day I brought your mother home? He turned to me, his expression soft. Never. Even though it brought danger? Pain? Even then. He pulled me closer, wrapping his arms around me. Because it also brought you. And you're worth every battle, every scar, every risk. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I never imagined this would be my life, that I'd fall in love with a man the world fears. And I never imagined I'd find someone brave enough to love me back. He tilted my chin up, his eyes searching mine. But here we are. Here we are, I echoed. He kissed me, then slow and deep and full of everything we'd been through, everything we'd survived. When we finally pulled apart, he whispered, Ti amo, Elena. I love you. Tears slipped down my cheeks. Ti amo, Dante. And as we stood there, wrapped in each other, I thought about the day I'd helped a lost grandma on a Florence street, the day that changed everything. I'd walked away from that encounter, thinking I'd done a simple act of kindness, but I'd been wrong. Because that kindness hadn't just changed her life, it had changed mine. It had led me to a world of shadows and danger, to a family bound by blood and loyalty, and to a man who loved me fiercely enough to burn the world down to keep me safe. I was no longer the naive girl who believed in fairy tales. I was Elena Rossi De Luca, the woman who helped a lost grandma, and fell in love with her son, the Italian Mafia boss everyone feared, the ghost who became human again, because of me. 6 months later, the gallery opening was everything I'd dreamed of. My paintings lined the walls, vibrant florals, Florence landscapes, portraits of the people I loved. Lucia stood beside one, her face full of pride. Bellissima, she whispered, squeezing my hand. Dante stood across the room, watching me with that intense gaze that still made my knees weak. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, looking every inch the powerful man he was. But when our eyes met, he smiled. A real smile. Soft, warm, just for me. Rosa appeared at my elbow, grinning. Look at you. Gallery owner, Mafia queen. Living the dream. I laughed. I'm not a Mafia queen. Sure you're not. She winked. But seriously, Elena, I'm proud of you. You found your happy ending. I glanced at Dante, at Lucia, at the life I'd built in the shadows and light. Yeah, I murmured. I really did. Because sometimes, helping a stranger changes everything. Sometimes, kindness leads you exactly where you're meant to be. Even if it's into the arms of a ghost. The end.